1. So my mother, a 52-year-old woman, is married to a complete twat waffle of a man, who she has been with for 6 years. I can't stand him. He has an ego that can only be rivaled by alpha idiots. He has disrespected me in my own home, telling me to start dressing like an adult. I like to dress in what would be considered goth and emo attire. When my son was admitted to hospital after a seizure that nearly killed him, I jokingly said to my mother over video call, "I'm sorry I ruined your honeymoon." And his response was, "Well, if anyone was going to, it would be you." This was not said in a joking manner. The audacity of this man. My flabbers were completely gasted that he would say something like that when my 2-year-old son was on a ventilator. But anyway, I digress. I will say that over the 6 years my mother has been with this man, he has made no effort to get to know me or my 3 children, and I have actually only spent time with him a handful of times, and during these times, he was incredibly condescending and rude. I helped my younger sister move out of their house this week after some boundaries were crossed, and my mother devolved into what can only be described as a temper tantrum of epic proportions, i.e. shouting at me over the phone because I was not entertaining her bullcrap. My mother could have her own thread with her ridiculousness. My sister went back to my mother's house without me to pick up some more of her things. My mother was not there, this is important. Her husband decided this is a brilliant time to start berating my sister about how she is moving out and says, "This isn't something you do, this is something that Petty Princess does," meaning me. Excuse me. Now, I was very mentally ill when I was younger, between the ages of 11 to 15. I'm now 33, going to university, where I just passed my first year with distinction, and got on the dean's list for excellence. But I've worked so hard on getting better and making sure my children have all the support I never got. I won't lie, I was angry. This man knows nothing about me at all, including how petty I am. So, I have sent him a glitter bomb full of as much glitter and shiny penis confetti I could order, about £30 worth. In British money, not weight. And have sent it to him with a note attached saying, "If you want to talk about what I do, this is what I do." I should also mention that my mom has repeatedly told me how much he hates glitter and how he thinks it is the work of the devil. So I really hope he enjoys cleaning all the sparkly penises. I really wish I could be there to see the look on his face when he realizes that not only do I know what he said, but that he now has to explain to my mother why I sent it. It might not be the best petty revenge, but it warms the petty place in my heart knowing that he will be finding glitter and penises for months, and every time he does, he will remember not to use me as a bad example, because I'll give you a reason to call me one. Update. I'm back, so I have the most wonderful update for you all. First of all, I wanted to give some context to a few bits I mentioned in the aforementioned post. I did not send him an envelope full of glitter. I sent him a spring-activated glitter bomb from an online prank store called Postal Pranks. I highly recommend them for your petty revenge plans. Hellfreezer's note, I don't, but only for legal reasons. 2. My son is absolutely fine now. He is my little ginger whirlwind, and has had no further seizures. Now on to the update. Today was my previously mentioned sister's birthday. She went to see my mother and the twat waffle. While she was there, my husband's mother mentioned to her that someone had glitter bombed him. He then goes on to tell her how he opened it just as he was about to leave for a work trip, and was completely covered in glitter and sparkly penises. He then proceeded to lose it. He was so covered in glitter he had to change, as it was inside his clothing. This delayed home for about an hour. My mother proceeded to lose it as she had a guest over at the time who witnessed the entire spectacle take place. My sister, those drama classes truly paid off here, goes on to ask questions to see if he had any idea who sent it, and that's where it gets mind-blowingly good. He has no idea it was me. Neither him or my mother have any idea who sent this or why he got it. He obviously has no idea that my sister told me what he said about me, so now I'm deciding how I want to let them know it was me or if I do. Maybe I'll just let him have a stroke every time he sees a package that he didn't order. 2. Far too many years ago, I worked in a retail plumbing store. There were 2 of us that worked the counter. The other guy, Tim, was generally speaking a very nice, well-mannered guy, always polite to everyone. He worked opening shift, I worked closing. Over the back fence of our parking lot was a chemical plant that manufactured fertilizer. They were the worst neighbors in so many ways. But one of the most obnoxious things they did was to have trucks arrive with various chemicals for their plant, and they just dump raw, powdered crap in their parking lot, and have their workers, with no protective gear, start shoveling it into bags. We'd have to literally hose our cars off to be able to see to drive home at night. I'm amazed I never saw anyone working there with an extra hand growing out of their forehead. And one day, a bigger truck than usual, a tractor trailer, was parked up next to the gate into our back parking lot, close enough that Tim couldn't get past it to get to the back door without actually climbing over it. And the alarm system was configured such that there was only a delay to disarm it before it went off and called the police. If you came in the back door, open the front door and we get charged by the police department for a false alarm. So he goes into the office next door and politely, and he was always polite, asks the driver to move it. The driver's response was, "Go F yourself." Okay, well, that's anatomically unlikely, but still waters run deep. Screwing you is certainly possible. So in climbing over the truck to get in, he notes that it's parked in a fire lane and calls the cops, who hated this company as much as everyone, for good reasons, but that's another story. So they showed up quickly and told the driver, "There's a tow truck on the way. You have until it gets here to move your truck." The truck was moved. Quickly. But that's only the beginning of those still waters. There's still the sharp rocks at the bottom. From that day on, every time they unloaded one of their trucks onto the asphalt, he'd call the fire department, who handle hazmat situations. The first couple of times their excuse was, "Well, the truck was broken and this was the only way we had to unload it." About the third time, they started writing citations, expensive citations. After a few more times, I came back from lunch one day to find a fire truck parked in the alley, and guys in hazmat suits taking core samples out of their parking lot. They apparently came within a few parts per million of having to pay to have the entire parking lot dug up and hauled off to a toxic waste dump, which in California would probably have cost them 7 figures. And it's federal law, so their friends in the city government couldn't protect them. But they were never rude to Tim again. Once we, or rather the kid who worked in the detailing shop we shared a building with, taught their stupid Doberman to stay out of our parking lot, they were still annoying, but not nearly as much so. 3. So I had a friend, Tom. Tom and I met through work back in the early 2010s. When Tom's mother passed away, and several years later his brother also passed away, my husband and I attended both funerals to show support. I got laid off from our old company, then Tom eventually got laid off as well, but by then I had found a new job in our industry and was able to get him a new job as well within 2 days of his layoff. A couple years back, I came out as non-binary to Tom and then to my workplace. I began using they-them pronouns and added them to my email signature on my director's suggestion. Tom acted supportive when I came out to him, but he also never switched to the new pronouns. I'm talking not just forgetting or slipping up and catching himself, but no apparent effort whatsoever. A couple months later, while I was off work for a bit, I went through a very painful estrangement from my parents. Tom had known for years things were very difficult with my parents, but that we still spent major holidays with them. This will be important later. I texted Tom the day this happened, but didn't receive any response, even an "I'm busy, but I will get in touch later" token reply. The following day, when I went into work, I discovered Tom, who had been covering for me while I was out of office, had been referring to me with the wrong pronouns in emails to clients. I sent them a quick, "Hey, now that my pronouns are in my email signature, please use these when referring to me in the future." His only response was to shoot my exact wording back to me. "Hey, now that X holiday is over, please remove the verbiage from your signature about it." Only about halfway through the day, after he was done complaining to me about work, did he make a token acknowledgement of the text I had sent him about my estrangement the day prior. I talked to him a little about it and how painful it was. After that conversation, though, he never brought it up again. The first major holiday since my estrangement was Thanksgiving. Just a couple of months later, Tom didn't do so much as ask what we were doing any time that week, let alone how we were doing, to offer to hang out with us at all, even during the week or weekend. That hurt quite a bit. Months went by, and he still didn't use my correct pronouns once, at work or outside of it, despite me telling him several times how much people misgendering me hurts. Eventually, I spilled the beans to my director at work about how hurt I was over this, only because I desperately needed someone at work to back me up and try to lead by example, since evidently my friend wasn't going to be any help there. I did make my director promise not to tell anyone I had said anything, least of all Tom or HR. The last thing I wanted was for Tom to get in trouble. I only wanted more backup than I was getting, and for someone to be willing to correct any misgendering that happened in conversations. I didn't get that backup, but I had to try. Soon after, I decided to send Tom an email using my therapist-suggested wording to let Tom know that I needed him to at least start trying to catch himself when he uses the wrong pronouns, and to start trying to correct himself. This was only after he'd had about 6 months to start using the correct pronouns for me. I had wanted to give him time to adjust. Tom never so much as acknowledged the email. After that point, he entirely stopped talking to me about anything other than work, and even that he would only do when unavoidable. Fast forward to the last month or two, our petty revenge. Our director has retired, and I'm very friendly with the person who took her place. The new director calls me saying she needs to promote someone on the team to be her manager, and is torn between two people who really want this promotion, Tom and another team member. I am not on the list because I don't want the position. She asks for my input. I preface by telling her I was in no way objective, but she knew my history with Tom, and I'm sure she did not expect me to be fully objective because of that. After I let her know how much resentment and bitterness I still hold toward Tom, for the way he treated me, plus I have no faith Tom will respect how I've asked to be referred to, and his inability to handle conflict maturely, it doesn't look like Tom will be getting the promotion. Author's note: if you take issue with trans and or non-binary people, they them pronouns, or think anyone doesn't deserve to refer to as they've asked to be referred to, please move it along. Your opinions have been made known and are honestly boring and irrelevant. Where I live, refusing to refer to employees the way they have asked to be referred to constitutes a hostile work environment, harassment, and or discrimination. Elfreezer's note: also, when Tom was doing it with clients, it's making unneeded problems for the OP, causing them to have to do a lot of legwork to correct something that should be a simple issue in the first place. Words aren't that hard. 4. I work for a visitor attraction in London. Generally, we are out on the floor answering questions, etc. We had a dedicated team that worked in the control room, usually supervisors or those that wanted to become supervisors, normally 1 or 2 people in the control room. They were never, ever on the floor if they could help it. They watched the CCTV and controlled the breaks, lunches, etc. For instance, if a visitor sets off an alarm, they would call us and we would investigate the alarm. Management decided to pull the supervisors out onto the floor and train floor personnel to be in the control room. Good idea on paper, but in practice? Supervisors didn't want to go on the floor, and those on the floor didn't want to go in the control room. Some of us already worked in the control room as we relieved them for breaks, lunches, etc. Basically, if you were in the control room, you stayed there. First training week went something like this. Someone that knew the control room training 3 or 4 of the floor people. Needless to say, that put us short-staffed on the floor, and management had to go on the floor to cover. As how hard will it be? It will only be a week. Then I can go back to my cushy desk job. First day I was training 3 or 4 floor staff, and management and supervisors were on the floor. Management told me to treat them like normal floor staff. Okay, no problem. I asked everyone that I was training normal floor staff. We all got big smiles on our faces. Not even 10 minutes go by and radio call. Can one of you bring the keys for the front door so we can let the public in? It's a 5-minute walk from control to the front door. I radio one of the management on the floor. Come to control and pick up the keys and take to the front door. I get a phone call. Just have so-and-so bring them over. There's 4 of you in there. As per procedure, nobody is allowed out of the control room. Management take 5 minutes to get to control and then take the keys over to the front door. So we're late opening. Next radio call. Which key is it? I give the number. They open the doors. Alarm goes off. Control, why did alarm go off? You need to call control to let us know exactly when to take the alarm off. Procedure. All of this is written down. Procedures must be followed. Now that the public is in, alarms start going off for various reasons. The public loves going through doors that say, "Door is alarmed." Normal stuff. I start radio calls to management on the floor. Charlie 3, go to door X. Charlie 3, go to door X, etc., etc. Delta 4, relieve Charlie 3 for their lunch. Lunchtime. I get phone calls from people who haven't been relieved for their lunch on time. Management hasn't figured out that travel time between your post and the break area is taken out of your lunch break. If you have an hour lunch, and it takes you 10 minutes walking time to get there, then basically your lunch is 40 minutes. 10 minutes to go from your post to the break room, and 10 minutes to get back to your post. Normal control staff knew this, and would start lunches early to give everyone as much as possible a full lunch. More radio calls. Charlie 3, can you check the toilet? Report of water on the floor. Charlie 3, can you go to X? Visitor wants to use a voucher. Actually, Charlie 3, go to door X, but I'm with a visitor. Doors take priority, Charlie 3. For the rest of the day, we ran management crazy. Everything in the procedures was adhered to. Count the empty spaces in the car park. Check locks on the emergency gates. Check toilets, men's and women's, to see if they need to be refilled with toilet paper. Look for lights out. Fill in your task book, etc. Next day, needless to say, I wasn't in the control room. Didn't matter, the tone was set. Didn't matter who was in there. The rest of the week went by the same. Everyone that followed me ran management nuts. Management, to their credit, changed some things after that. Black sneakers can now be worn. More break rooms closer to posts have been opened. Procedures have been opened up. Control people are back in control, and floor people are back on the floor. Everyone is now trained in the control room, but they only have to work it if they want. Still, a glorious week. 5. I just sold my parents' house. I cleared out everything and gave everything a good clean. It had a professional clean when I put it on the market, and nobody was living in it since then. It's 2 days post-closing, and the new owners blew up the realtor's phone with all the garbage left behind. Some crackpot rumors, complaints about some things not working, and the dryness of the yard, and some other baseless issues. First, the stuff left behind was house stuff. Extra hardwood, extra tile, extra light bulbs. The house has some fancy expensive lights. There was also the middle section of the dining room table which stayed, and the custom paint colors for the interior, exterior, and trim. Everything was custom when my parents built, so the paint has the specific codes. The crackpot rumors were that I left garbage outside for 3 days and drove away saying, "I don't care." I was back and forth to the place a lot, cleaning. Stuff I couldn't take or sell, I put for free on the road, not garbage. And several days before closing, I paid my neighbor to remove it with his trailer. I had said to him, "I don't care about this stuff, so if nobody takes it, don't worry about it and just take it to the dump and I'll pay for it." When I did my last inspection and cleaning 2 days before closing, nothing was in the driveway. All garbage had been removed. Anything not working had turned up in the home inspection, and the buyers were well aware. Now they were trying to bill me. As for the dryness of the yard, we live in an arid semi-desert. There is not much I can do about it. The yard hadn't changed much between when it was listed and when it was closed. Summers are hot here, weather has been in the high 30s Celsius, and there was a fire nearby. Even though I don't live nearby, 2 hours away, and have 3 kids, I offered to come help clear up some of their complaints. I made sure I took everything not explicitly stated in the contract. So I took all the bulbs, tiles, extra flooring, and paint codes. No way in heck they were ever going to match properly. I also took a very expensive barbecue grill that was hooked up to the natural gas. It's a very nice grill, but my current residence doesn't have a natural gas hookup. And honestly, I don't have much interest in barbecuing. But I know the new owners remarked on it, so I thought I'd be nice and leave it for them. The other thing that isn't explicitly stated was a large metal gazebo shading the back patio. It's the perfect size for back there. It was a pain for me to remove, so I thought the new owners would enjoy it, especially since the back patio and enormous back windows face west. In the summer it gets god-awful hot, and without that patio there, they will be sweating enough to fill a bathtub. And they were angry when I removed the hardwood, tiles, gazebo, and barbecue. They didn't realize that's what it was initially. And unless they plan on totally repainting, as opposed to spot touch-ups, they will miss those paint codes. The biggest pet revenge is the barbecue and gazebo, as those were sweet little gifts that I know they wanted. The gazebo is the only thing keeping the entire house from being an oven in the summer. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 369. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button. It helps YouTube recommend the video to other people. And if you'd like early access to these videos, get them all at once on a Monday. Then you can support me on my Patreon page, which is linked for you in the description. Do that for as little as $1 or more if you would like a month. You'll also find a link there to the Hellfreezer Discord, as well as my merchandise store, which is hosted on Teespring. Okay, I don't think we've any other bits and bobs today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question comes from Newcomb via the Discord. And this one is, do you like, or have you ever even had, instant coffee? Are you one of those people who just refuses to touch the stuff? It's gotta be fresh-made coffee for you always. Or maybe you've never had the stuff for you. You grind your beans and, you pour it over whatever. There's so many different ways of making coffee. Personally, I've had instant. I've had plenty of instant over the years. I used to buy the Nescafe one. Was that... It came in like a silver can with an orange lid on it. I used to buy that, and that was okay until I actually started drinking the fresh ground stuff, and it's so much nicer, obviously depending on the kind of beans you get. And since I don't drink coffee that often, I usually just get I'll have like the fresh made stuff. So I've got a decent grinder, and I've got a little French press that make just one good mug of coffee. That's how I like it, though. Other options are available, so why don't you let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's have a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And somewhat appropriately and completely coincidentally, this question was in relation to if you couldn't have cow's milk anymore, what would your alternative be? I think I mentioned I was quite fond of oat milk, rice milk, that sort of thing. And today's answer comes from A. Elephant. I've only ever knowingly had silk, if I remember correctly, back when it was only soy milk. But I'd like to try oat milk. I'm just a big fan of dairy, so I haven't really tried any substitute milks. Fortunately, my body is very tolerant of my lactose addiction. Thank you very much for your answer, A. Elephant. And with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.